Hi, it's Marmer from Signature Electric. We're here looking at some fleet installations, and I'm here with my friend from 7Gen.
I'm happy to be here to discuss a little bit more about the details of this amazing project we deployed here with one of our customers. That's Signature Electric also support us with the installation and the turnkey solution. So
great. Well, we've got lots to look at, so let's go take a peek.
I'm Gabriela Favaron, Director of EV Infrastructure at 7Gen. We're basically an EV as a service company. Our mission is to accelerate the decarbonization of medium and heavy duty fleets all across North America. Let's say you are a fleet manager, a fleet operator that you would like to electrify and you don't know where to start. You come to a company like us. We're actually pioneers here in Canada. We own the assets, we purchase the vehicles, we purchase the charging stations, we select the best ones for the customer needs in terms of operations. And we also do this full project deployment with partnership with Signature Electric, other companies as well. And we also monitor and manage the maintenance of the charging stations and the vehicles in a service level agreement. This is all in a 1 monthly bill.
This particular location ended up with about 15 of these 80 amp level 2 chargers. We're going to give you a little peek behind the scenes. There's about 15 chargers here. This service that you see, this disconnect, transformer, these pipes and everything, this is just for half of the chargers. So I think sometimes people that are not familiar don't realize the infrastructure that's actually needed. While these are level 2 chargers, meaning they're 208 volt output, the truck can also take a level 3. So if it's out on the road, we can do level 3. And if we decided that for some reason we needed 1 or 2 here for some reason, for something quick top-ups, we could do that too. Almost every customer wants to be able to see what's happening with the chargers. And they may have locations here, Montreal, Vancouver, Saskatchewan. They may want to see all of this together. The chargers do have the ability to communicate that information out, but the other thing that happens when we do this, we have the opportunity, if we need it, to do some load management and power sharing. In this case, the vehicles actually sit overnight. They don't have that big of a battery. It could turn out that when I start to look at it, that in fact, if I lowered down the output of the charger to 50%, I could actually still overnight, like we do in our condos, charge 2 or even 3 vehicles overnight. That means less of this infrastructure, be more respectful of the amount of energy we have available in the building. This is another tool in our toolbox. This rack is bringing a signal in from outside so that we can connect to the internet. And then these white access points are communicating wirelessly to the chargers outside. So we grab this information, and now once the information's available, whether we employ a third party or how we do it, we have this ability to read out the information from the charger, understand the condition of the charger at any given moment, connection and third party and power sharing. Nobody sees this, right? I can see the panel, I can see the charger, but this piece is very important.
A hidden part of all the fleet electrification is the software piece. Most of the times customers are just, I want to buy one charger just to install as I have in my home, for example. It's going to work. But when you're thinking of a fleet of 15 to 60, each one of the vehicles have different batteries, so they're going to be charging at different speeds. You mentioned about the load balancing as well. We can save a lot of costs here, just considering that we can limit the charger power at a certain capacity that's going to allow the vehicle to charge anyway at a given speed, but it's going to allow us to add more chargers to the system as well without upgrading all this background here essentially. So this is really important for us to consider when designing the new infrastructure. Those vehicles, they are able to take 13.2 AC maximum, so the chargers they're even future-proofing this, they're 19.2 kilowatt 80 amps. We can also, in the future, if they need, for example, a quick speed, we can also increase that for DC fast charger. When you're thinking about one charger, it's just simply to use your current power, home charging, for example. But when you're thinking fleet-wise, we're talking here about 15 vehicles, but they're expanding more and more, expecting this facility to have around 60 vehicles. We need to understand exactly where to place, how to future-proof those things here, the panels, transformers. So we're not like replacing all these things later on down the road as well. So the more we plan ahead, the better, because we can source these things at lower cost. We're sizing for all the roadmap of the customer in terms of electrification, because we truly believe that this is the future. They are going to grow their operations. They will have to bring additional equipment to support these operations on their core business. So this is also going to impact on the electrification and how we are going to plan this ahead.
Some of the things we're not needing to do yet, but that we could do, is we could have monitoring of the main service. We could have monitoring of sub-services. We could have interaction between things, having a truck be a secondary load and having these be a primary load. So when these are finished, then I can send these. We're not having to do this yet, but it's completely possible. Everything that we need is available and in place to make this happen now. And again, now you go back to this software that we talked about earlier. As long as I can talk to the charger and I can send commands to the charger, I can say, when you see this load reach here, can you drop the output to these down so that these can finish charging? And then when you see this come back down to a certain level, you can bring these back up. This is all completely possible within the software. We're just at the moment not really needing it, but these are the kind of things that we'll implement.
We can design according to whatever we find, essentially, like, and what it makes like most cost sense for the customer as well. We can do it at the origin, like with the electrical infrastructure, or we could do it with the load balancing as well, or we could do both as well. That's also a possibility to do, like, right? Like, depends on really what are the scaling plans of the customer, what are their current operations, how they would like to scale, and we would like to be partners in this electrification as well, right? Like all the pieces, let's say, for the electrification, we are part. Like, since like you're deciding on the vehicle, deciding on the chargers, doing the implementation and the operations later, like we would like to support all these to remove the concerns, let's say, of those customers that are a bit afraid, let's say, like, how do I do it? Like, how do I scale my operations? It's important for the tenants, let's say, for leased facilities, especially, like, to discuss with the landlords before coming to the new building like this, because usually the biggest constraint we're facing is that we get to a new building like this and you don't have enough power for your full roadmap of charging infrastructure. So it's really imperative for in terms of real estate discussions, like even utility discussions before, like you plan ahead like of time, so you don't have to go through all the new service constraints and everything. This building, luckily, we had power. We needed to order a new connection, like with the local utility here. What we do before we start a project is to really understand their biggest constraints, like where they're going to be, like what is the maximum amount of time essentially that they're going to be taking there, where they will have to charge. Like most of the times overnight charging is enough for those cargo vans, but when we are talking about class 6 vehicles, class 8 vehicles, we need to include some pit stops, let's say, in the middle of the way that they're going to top up charging. We're going to rely either on other partners that will have these available, or like a public charging infrastructure, for example. Like, so this is something that it's a bigger conversation with a major infrastructure, like that needs to have more, incentives, let's say, for deploying more of these stations. When they're back to the base, they're able to charge at the speed that they need. Like in this case, for example, we're just like considering 8 to 12 hours overnight charging is just enough for them to top up charge. Those vehicles usually come like 30% depleted, and they need to charge up to 85% like in a given day. So it's just reasonable for the chargers. But when you're planning for bigger vehicles, larger vehicles, you need to consider DC fast chargers, like something that you can quickly access. But this is gonna vary. Like we work with a range of customers like last mile delivery vans, drayage, recycling, some now police stations, so they have different requirements as well. There are lots of things you have to consider now, not only on the vehicle, but how it operates with the chargers. Like, are you going to charge publicly? Are you going to charge privately? What is the level of power? The building is playing a key role now in this electrification journey. The important element that people forget, it's about cable management. In this case, those are wall-mounted charging stations, and most of the times in terms of failure, are exactly on the user end, like how they're going to be using. So In this case here, we have two sort of cable management systems that we could use here, which is one, the cable holster here, which is holding the connector. So you can just roll things around here. The issue with that is that like this puts a lot of pressure here in this holder. So essentially like this falls down, like, you know, or the drivers are not really familiarized like with this process. Like, so that's something we, you know, we basically like don't advise as well. Also because, you know, if we have like other operations happening here, there is a huge danger of them like to just like, you know, remove this with them. With that said, here we are implementing a cable retractor system. This is also a recommendation from the supplier. But as you can see here, you know, depending on how the operations they are using, like it might just have some issues like in terms of cable tension here. So that's one lesson learned. We're going to be improving soon in this cable management here. This is to avoid essentially the cables just lying on the ground and allowing also the drivers to have a more flexibility when using the charger stations here as well. There are other ways like to do this as well, and we're exploring, but that's something we have to consider. 7Gen also provides some driver training, charger training, like when we do these installations, but it's also up to the customer to manage this on a day-to-day basis. We provide support during this period as part of our service level agreement. So in that case, we're going to be replacing all the broken ones with the new ones. But it's also imperative that we work together with our customers, that they explain what are the biggest constraints they are facing, like on site, that we can test and validate this. We really know what's going on there and what we need to provide for the customers.
So the other little piece of the story that's interesting, and it has something partly to do with the construction, that these chargers ended up here at these docks exactly where they are, may not have been completely the best location.
You see here, like essentially that they're close connected to the docks. That's essentially for the larger trucks operations, it's a risk as well for keeping the chargers here. So our preferred approach was not in this area here. But of course, like, you know, as we had constraints with the building at the early stage, like when we arrived here, that was the only possible location that we could have implemented this charging infrastructure. So that's essentially where they're charging right now. As the customer is expanding their operations to the other side of the building, we might consider as well transferring those chargers to the other side, so like they're safer in terms of their operations.
When we came to do this job, about here in the middle, this is as far as the building was built. They were still constructing this back piece of the building, though there was a wall up inside. So the area that we're going to, we didn't even have access. It wasn't even a choice at the time. So now that we're finished here, we're looking at other options. This is a possibility to repurpose these kind of spaces. The chargers could easily go into the grassy area, and we have a lot here. This may not be getting used that often during the day. Depends how many employees there are or whether people are bringing their vehicles here. So these are opportunities that we look at when we're at other sites as well, right?
Yeah, that's a new opportunity. We didn't have access to this area initially, but that's something we definitely would consider in one future installation at this facility, just because it's super close to the docks here. What we envision for this area are pedestal mounted units, depending on how your business operations is. Like you can also think about employee charging, for example, with the fleet management as well, although some of our customers prefer to keep it just separate. So like the visitor parking lot is in the other area, like so we could keep separate here, protected from the outskirts of the city here.
We can position the chargers very close to where the charging port is in the vehicle, and he'll just literally need to probably just lift it off and plug it in, and we'll eliminate some of the problems we were having with cords and cable management.
One thing we should consider also is mobile charging solution as well. That's something we could also include as part of the scope, let's say, for the customer, something that is easily relocatable. Most of our customers that they have leased facilities, they're having constraints on terms of like getting approvals from landlord, permitting and everything. We're now adding to our portfolio more mobile charging infrastructure as well. So you can avoid a little bit of these additional civil works.
It could be attached to a truck or something where we could actually move them away. They could have been put on a concrete pad. Everything together, just lift the concrete pad and move it somewhere else. Smaller mobile chargers. These are all possibilities. You still need the electricity.
You can have all the infrastructure coming to, in a more mobile location, but you're right, like you still need to connect to the main room. or you can have like a certain type of battery integrated solution, connected to the various systems. But that's again, like, that depends on the customer and the cases and the needs. Like that's something we have to evaluate like case by case. But that's another possibility as well. Like for customers that don't have enough space in a specific location, that's something we can consider.
I really want to thank you for taking the time to be out here with us and helping at a very early stage to help people educating about fleets. Fleets are becoming, a year ago we weren't talking that much about fleets, and now it's a big topic of interest. So this kind of connection is a perfect connection to bring sort of the practical nuts and bolts piece and the customer connection piece. So if somebody wants to get in touch with 7Gen, how would you suggest we do this?
Thank you first for the opportunity of being here, like just explaining a little bit more of those intricacies of the charging infrastructure. So yeah, if you want to be in touch with 7Gen, essentially we have like our social media, like LinkedIn, we are through email as well, like our website, like 7gen.com as well. We also have a TCO calculator too, so like in our website. So if you would like to electrify and you don't know like the total cost of an ownership, for example, that's something you can test there. And you can just like leave us a message as well, like that we're going to be in touch with you, and we're going to check appropriate vehicles, appropriate timelines. Like now we're going to be discussing more specifically about your fleet needs. There's no too small, too big for us. Like everybody needs like to go through the electrification journey. We started actually with small vans. Let's say now we're deploying like massively like Class 6, like now 8 vehicles as well. By 2030, a lot of manufacturers already disclosed their plans, and retail stores also declared their plans that they're going to be carbon neutral by that time. Yeah. So we are here to accelerate even more. Our business model essentially is helping our customers not only on the education piece, the deployment piece, but also like on the financing as well, like as we're leasing back and we're taking the worries out of a customer and getting this deployed, and they can focus on their operations and be 100% sustainable.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. We've had a little bit last year about trucks, but I think you're going to see more and more certainly on our website. So if you're looking to reach out to us, the website's a great place to start. signatureelectric.ca. We also have a YouTube channel, so this type of video will live on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/signatureelectric, and we're open to having people call. You're already in the office, you hear the phones ring, 416-490-8093. Thank you so much.